Let's go back on air with Arya Pulita and talk about health. Today, we are focusing on anxiety and stress from a neuroscience perspective, and we are discussing it with our guest. Good morning, Alessio Cellucci, University Professor at Tor Vergata in Rome for the Neuroaesthetics Master's Program and Director of the EffettoVIOLA project. He conducted research on this topic. Can you explain to us what your research has brought to light?
In summary, we have managed to incorporate a special technology into classical or modern music that promotes the brain waves typical of a calm and relaxed mind or a mind in the process of falling asleep. This technology, called EffettoVIOLA, can be useful in reducing physiological anxiety and stress or promoting and speeding up sleep. However, it is not a medical device and is not intended to be a cure or prevention for any pathology, symptom, or disorder, which should be addressed by a doctor or psychologist. Nonetheless, it is proven to be highly effective for cases that fall below the pathological threshold, which are the majority of cases.
So, there's a device, a technology that acts on the front of anxiety and stress. Are there any devices required to use this technology?
Well, we've made everything very simple, in the sense that we've made the use of any existing earbuds or headphones compatible with this technology. So, it's enough to wear any common earbuds or headphones and listen to engineered music. I want to point out that this is not music therapy or relaxing sounds, but a real technology incorporated into the music, and the listener hardly notices anything.
Exactly. So the result is music that has an effect on the listener. How did you achieve this result? What happens inside this music? And how did you get there? What is the process?
A little premise. Every mental state is correlated to specific brainwave patterns. What does this mean in simple terms? It means that calmness has its own brainwave patterns, agitation has its own brainwave patterns, sleep has its own brainwave patterns, and so on. Our objective was, therefore, to find something that would stimulate the right brainwave patterns, those we wanted to stimulate, which in our case were those of relaxation and sleep. So, we did some research and looked for technologies to achieve this result. There were some, such as transcranial magnetic stimulation, but it was a bit far from our concept of physiological processes. Alternatively, there was the so-called flickering, which involves stroboscopic lights, which are also very effective, but can cause epileptic seizures. So, we ruled out this option. Another possibility was using chemical carriers through the intake of substances, drugs or foods like coffee or alcohol, but this added an even greater level of complexity to a project that was already very complex. Finally, we found the simplest and most enjoyable means to use: music. We took a raw active ingredient called binaural beats. This raw active ingredient has been in use for over 60 years and has been scientifically studied for over 60 years without ever causing any side effects or addiction, even after long periods of use. We, therefore, had a solid scientific basis. From here, we evolved this raw active ingredient in terms of effectiveness, shorter usage time, and ease of use. Just to give you an example, classic binaural beats can only stimulate a brainwave frequency that is the same for everyone. However, this doesn't make much physiological sense because a man's brain is very different from a woman's, as is a child's, an adult's, or an elderly person's brain. The key was, therefore, to try to stimulate personalized and dynamic frequency patterns for each individual, and we succeeded. This technology has also been studied in a hospital setting by the Galliera Hospital in Genoa through a randomized double-blind controlled case study with international scientific publication, and the subjects were women, mothers who had to undergo elective cesarean section. So, they had a high level of physiological anxiety to resolve at a time when they couldn't take many drugs.
Here, are there certain types of people who are more prone to the problem of anxiety and stress, certain categories?
Well, certainly those under 25 years old and the age group between 40 and 55 are more exposed to the problems of anxiety and stress. A particularly sensitive subset to these issues are workers. If we think about it, our life is divided into three parts. 1/3 of the time we sleep, 1/3 of the time we spend with family, and 1/3 of the time we spend working. Therefore, work is a fundamental ingredient for our mental health and well-being. The trend is very important. I read a survey a few weeks ago, a survey from 2023, which indicated that 73% of workers suffer from this problem. Employers are looking for many beautiful and innovative solutions, such as implementing mindfulness, yoga, or meditation projects in the workplace, and the scientific literature confirms the effectiveness of these techniques. However, the problem is that many companies are unable to complete these projects because it requires time, a specific place, and willingness from the worker. Imagine a worker who has to stop and learn something new after 8 hours of work. It is very difficult. Nevertheless, we have tried to give our small support, a small help, with a technology that stimulates emits the brain waves typical of a meditation session, giving the result of hours of meditation in a passive way. This should not be seen as a substitute for these beautiful and ancient techniques, such as yoga, because it would make little sense to compare a lifestyle like yoga to a plug-and-play, completely passive technology. However, it can still produce results, and we are very happy about that.
Thank you, Professor. Have a good day and good work. We have the news broadcast coming up after us. Thanks to Matteo Raye in the control room. We'll see you tomorrow. Have a good day.